Hi, my name is Tony de los Reyes. I'm a painter from Los Angeles, and all my work is about the U.S.-Mexico border. Particularly, I'm interested in one part of the border, which is in California. It's called Jacumba, and the photographs I take, which become paintings like the ones behind me, are works that are particularly interesting because they're taken through the border wall and into this really beautiful valley that seems uninhabited and almost like a kind of Eden. And I'm fascinated about trying to capture paintings and photographs that get the essence of the space, which is both really haunted and gorgeous at the same time.
My work's about the refugee crisis. I just got back from Greece. I'm working on a series of prints that are based on a classical Greek form called the amphora that was used for exporting things. So I'm putting pictures, stories of refugees onto these pieces. These here are from the Life Fest graveyard, which is in Lesbos. It's the northeast of the island where refugees are arriving from Turkey. I had a knife on me when I was walking through these mounds of the vests, so I brought back pieces of the vests that are going to inform the palette of my work. I went to Greece for 5 weeks. I traveled through Athens, Lesbos, and Chios. I did a lot of research and collected information. I interviewed different people for their stories. A lot of the refugees are from Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, South Sudan, Cameroon, West Africa. So I collected their stories, and that's going to be used in my work, and also all of these photographs. But I arrived 2 years too late, and a lot of the photographs show places where these refugees have been pushed out into other camps or detention centers where they're being held and like seeking asylum. These knots here, I journaled throughout my whole trip, and in the journals there was an excerpt of writing about an event I went to where West African men played music for the Syrian people in the room, and the Syrians got together and danced, and it was this beautiful moment where everyone came together and their hands were intertwined. So I was working on some sculptures, and it led to this, and then I realized I was knotting the clay, and it's very much related to sailors' knots.
Yeah, my name's Kobe Kennedy, and I make sculpture, video, and painting, and usually they just kind of fuse together, you know, in different pieces, or they all kind of come together as a installation. And most recently I've been doing oil paintings on Kevlar. I stopped painting on canvas and I focused strictly on Kevlar, bulletproof Kevlar. Yeah. It made its way into my sculptures, and then it just kind of bled its way into all the other facets of my studio practice, into my paintings, and it just feels more cohesive, and it feels, there's a certain thing about painting on such a charged surface and a charged material that I just kind of stuck with it. And it makes sense in the deep narratives that find their way into my work also. One of the two main projects that I'm working on right now is called In the Service of a Villain, and it's a look into intra-group conflict, I guess. We're so used to the idea of conflict between a group and another group that a lot of times the conversation or the conflicts within groups gets kind of brushed over. And for a lot of people, that's the conflict that they're dealing with on a daily basis. And for me, it's the conflict that I've dealt with in my family throughout my whole life. Like, you'll have one side of my family, my dad's side specifically, grew up in a certain way. My dad grew up in a certain way, you know, picking cotton on a plantation in South Carolina for the first 14 years of his life. My mother's side, it was a completely different experience. Like, my grandfather used to speak with this intense kind of English mid-Atlantic accent that it felt like growing up with Jimmy Stewart as my father, as my grandfather. It was very strange on my mom's side. And so it's what the project became was this look into colorism and the way that the different skin tones of my dad's side and my mom's side being so vastly different, they grew up with completely different experiences in 20th century America. And so what I'm doing, I'm looking at that kind of conflict and I guess combining it with my love for the fantastical and pushing it all towards the absurd to kind of bring out the everyday realities that we kind of brush over by making the project cinematic with the paintings, with the video, and taking this kind of dynamic and putting it into this alternative world. I'm kind of trying to, well, I end up kind of wiping away the mundane realities that we'll see in this conflict and expose the real interior dynamics for what they are. You know, kind of like putting a by making everything cinematic and fantastical, I'm putting a magnifying glass on the elements of these conflicts.